Hello, my fellow BYU Idaho students. My name is Elizabeth Page, and I am a senior this semester, and I did my internship at Wellspring Counseling. My major is marriage and family studies, and I'm currently in the process of applying to graduate school so I can get my master's in marriage and family counseling. So I did my internship at Wellspring Counseling because I wanted to do something that not only helped me pull all of my academic learning from BYU Idaho together, but I also wanted to do something that would really help me in my master's program. Wellspring Counseling is located in Idaho Falls. The way I found my internship is I actually just started researching online through a Google search different counseling centers in the Rexburg and Idaho Falls areas. I hadn't really heard about a lot of interns at counseling centers, but I knew that that's really what I wanted to do. So I just went on my own and I found a handful that I thought were places that I would enjoy interning at. And I just started calling around. And I set up a couple interviews at other counseling centers, but Wellspring Counseling just seemed to fit my schedule best and kind of my interests. I worked with Dr. Bob Stahn. He specializes in addiction, depression, adolescent hardships, relationship counseling. He does it all. And I really felt connected with him and we got along great. And so when he offered me a position this summer, I took it. Some of the responsibilities that I had at Wellspring Counseling, I sat in and observed several counseling sessions. I would say about 50% of the time the clients would let me in. Just during each session, Dr. Stahn would ask them if it would be okay if I joined, and if they said yes, then he would come out and get me. Another responsibility I had, Dr. Stahn is pretty well known down in Idaho Falls, and he gets calls quite often to go and do presentations or trainings at different places. And so I was actually able to go with him and assist in handing out papers and working the slideshow. And there are a couple times when I was actually able to teach a little bit. We did one at Mountain View Hospital down in Idaho Falls about civility and respect in the workplace with some of the nurses there, and I was able to present a little bit of that with him. So that was really fun because not only would I like to be a counselor in the future, but also just being able to go out into the community and bless people with, family life education or anything like that would be amazing. So when clients wouldn't let me go sit into their session or when I was just working on my internship, not in the actual office, I had projects that I did. And these were projects that I talked with Dr. Stahn about that we came up together that would benefit his site and also was something that I was interested in. So just go through these really quick. I put together a handout of boredom fighters for people that are struggling with addictions or depression or anything like that. I put together a list of about 500 different activities that they could pull from. And these activities were all legal and they were either no cost or very little cost. And I tried to find activities that used more than one of their senses. So, they could smell things and see things or do things with their hands and listen to something at the same time. So that was boredom fighters. I put together an emotional needs worksheet. A lot of times people fall into depression or they're just unhappy because their needs aren't being met. And a lot of times we think that our needs need to be met by other people. But in actuality, the majority of those need to be met personally by ourselves. And so I put together a worksheet with a bunch of emotional needs that we as humans all have and whose responsibility that was, and also different ideas of how we could meet those emotional needs we have. The dialectical behavior therapy training is a DVD that I went through on my own and just learned about it. It talked a lot about the cognitive behavior and how we don't do things because of thoughts or negative thinking, which kind of ties down with the cognitive distortions. So I went through that training, and then I decided that I was going to put together a little handout of the different cognitive distortions that we have a lot of the times, ways that we distort our thinking to something that we think is true but is actually very incorrect or false. And then I also put together another handout of ways that we can challenge those distorted ways that we think so that we can have happy and true thoughts. The PTSD questionnaire is the post traumatic stress disorder questionnaire. Dr. Stein deals a lot with people that have gone through traumatic or very stressful events and have left them feeling, anxious or depressed, very gloomy. And so he wants to assess kind of where they are on that. And then he goes through BERT with them, which is a brief imagery therapy. So with the PTSD questionnaire, I put together 30 questions that could assess their PTSD. And then he's been using one, but he wanted kind of a different one, so I revised it and basically made a new one. But for the old one, then I went and put together all the statistics of the average before they went through this BERT therapy, and then the average of after, to see kind of the change that took place with this certain type of therapy. And that was really awesome because I took a research class at BYU, Idaho, and I really enjoyed it. And we learned a lot about putting together questionnaires and how to make them successful. So I was able to use my knowledge from that to put together the questionnaire, and then to kind of also analyze that questionnaire and how well it worked, and maybe some things that we could change so that we would get better results in the future. The next one is, I'm just really interested in general about depression and anxiety. I think that is something that a lot of people today struggle with, and I wanted to know really what's happening in the body with depression and anxiety. And I also researched a lot about medications and the pros and cons of medications, the limitations that some medications can have, and all that kind of stuff. And then the last one is just something small, but I wrote a paragraph for Bob to include on his paperwork so that his clients could know what an intern was and why we were there, and whether or not they wanted to have us sit in their sessions. How did I benefit the site? So I think the greatest way that I benefited the site was through the handouts and worksheets that I created for those clients, so that they could have those to take home and refer to when they were not in session with Bob. I think the other huge way that I benefited the site was revising that PTSD questionnaire. Bob uses that quite frequently during his work days, and so to have that crisp and new, I think will really help those trauma victims. And then this is just something small, but I think that it was really nice for the clients who came in to just see another friendly face each day when they came in. I tried to make conversation with them and make them feel loved. And I could tell by the time that I was done with my internship that, they were sad to see me go, and I was sad that I wasn't going to be able to see them on a weekly basis. So I think just being there helped them a lot. How I personally benefited from this internship. I learned a lot about counseling skills and was able to observe a lot how to use them. And this will benefit me a great deal when I am in my master's program and I am doing mock counseling sessions, or even my internship for my master's. When I can actually do the counseling, I think being able to observe Bob do such an amazing job with all walks of life has benefited me greatly. And I also learned how to create questionnaires. I learned how to do statistical analysis. I made handouts and worksheets, all that kind of stuff that will benefit me in the future when I have my own pool of clients. And then I also did that training for the dialectical behavior therapy, which taught me a lot about cognitive distortion and how we can help others to be kinder to themselves in their thoughts. The important connection that I made at my internship site ties to that quote by John C. Maxwell that you've probably heard. It's people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So we gain all of this knowledge at BYU Idaho or wherever we go to school, and we are so eager to use that for the rest of our lives to bless others. At least I am. But people aren't going to care about all that knowledge if they don't know that I care about them first. And each person is different, but the knowledge that I've gained will benefit them in some way or another. I just have to show them that I care and that I love them, and then I need to teach that knowledge or those skills in a way that will make sense to them and that will pull connections in their lives and benefit them not only now, but for the rest of their lives. Would I recommend this experience? And 100% yes, I would. Dr. Stein is amazing. He's very personable. He helped me out so much. When I had questions, I could ask him. He helped me find projects that would be beneficial to him and to myself. And I really felt like all my academic knowledge really came together. There was never a day at the internship site that I did not think back to one of the classes that I've had and think, wow, this, I learned about this. This is how this ties to this, and, back and forth and all that kind of stuff. So I would definitely recommend this type of experience, especially if you want to go on into a master's program for counseling. So just down at the bottom, I put the contact information, Wellspring Counseling. That number is Bob's number. He doesn't actually have an office phone. It's just his personal phone that he uses at his office. So if you call that number, you will get Bob Stahn. And that is his address, and his website is very informative as well as to what he can do and help us with. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this major as much as I did.